Welcome to the Hornet Spotlight for the month of November, and we're very pleased to have you join us here at Beech Grove High School. The first quarter is over. The grading period ends. We're well into fall now. Most of the fall seasons, as you watch this today, will have ended, and we will be beginning the winter sports, which here at the high school include boys and girls basketball, wrestling. We also have cheerleading competitions that we have begun this year, and the cheerleaders actually watched their performance last night. We have a very energetic group of cheerleaders, and if you haven't caught them at one of the football games, or if you didn't catch them at a football game, be sure to come just for the cheerleaders during basketball season if need be. But a very energetic group. Ms. Snyder has taken that program over, and they are in competitive cheerleading now, which is a neat addition to our athletic program. So plenty of activities as we move into the fall season. Band will be moving into the state competition. Hopefully we'll be bringing you good news from the band. Mr. Wynn has really got the band, after last year's performance, the band going to the state finals and all those seniors, a lot of people would have said it had been a kind of a down year for the band, but they have really just picked up right where they left off. And it is not a rebuild band, it is, to coin the phrase, a reloaded band. They're doing a great job. The scores they've been bringing for their contests to this point have been excellent. And I know Mr. Wynn's excited, and I know the band boosters are excited. I hear them through my door every Monday of the month. I think it's the third Monday of the month I hear them through my door. So it is a very exciting time to be a Beech Grove Hornet, and we're excited, and we hope everyone will come in and join us for the band, join us for the athletic seasons as they begin. We also will have the VIP breakfast the first Friday in November. We always look forward to that. Our Renaissance partners coming in, and they always do a nice job with the VIP breakfast. So lots to look forward to. And one of the most important things we do every month is recognize an alumnus of the month. And of course, as you all know, it is selected by the Renaissance Committee, composed of students, teachers, and administrators. And for the month of November, they have selected Dr. Richard Berger. And Dr. Berger comes to us from the class of 1951. And that goes back a way, to be honest with you. And but Mr. Berger is here today, and congratulations, sir, on your selection to our Hall of Fame. We appreciate it, and thanks for coming in.
Thanks for inviting me.
We'll start right away with the thing. You were the class of 50. When I talked to you on the phone, I still don't understand. You were the class of 51, but you actually left school in 1950. How did that work?
Well, most of my friends were Northsiders, and my best friend went to Shortridge, and most of my social was in the North Side, and they were all going to college, and I wanted to go with them. So I went to night school one semester and summer school and graduated. I had all the credits that I needed, so I left and went to school. went to Indiana. I matriculated at IU in 1950.
Okay, but you're still considered class of 51.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how many of us are left. You showed me the board, and some of those people are no longer.
Well, that's a way back.
Yeah.
You, for discussion's sake, when you left Beech Grove High School in 1950, where was Beech Grove High School located? We talked about that earlier.
On the corner of 10th and Albany.
And do you have any idea what's there now?
No, but I'm going down there when I leave here to see. No, I don't know. Somebody said, was Mr. Showalter told me they tore down the building.
Okay.
At 10th Street, the old grade school building. He said it was condemned.
All right.
So I matriculated there in 1939. 1939. And very interesting place. We learned well the 3 R's. And I told him, I don't know that you know, that if all the teachers were ladies, no male teachers, and the teachers in the grade school could not be married. My second grade teacher, who was beautiful, I loved her, as a little child, and she got married at Christmas, and she was gone. She had to leave. So all the teachers were single ladies, most of them older, and Nobody got beaten, but they sure beat the 3 R's into you pretty well.
Now, in that day, you say you started in 1939. There was no kindergarten at that point. You went right.
No, there was a private kindergarten that took place across the street from where I lived in the city hall.
Okay.
So they had a little kindergarten in the city hall, and a bunch of us. I was the youngest one in that group. Some of the older kids, but yeah, there was a kindergarten, private.
Okay, so. Now, I think we talked about this before you came in. You were not a part of the group. I think you may have been before this group that the high school and the middle school were in the same building, and the high school went at a certain time of day, and the middle school went at a different time of day. I'm thinking maybe I've got my eras mixed up.
No, the high school and the junior high were on. I mean, everybody went to school.
At that time, they were all in the same building at the same time.
Well, the buildings were separated.
Okay.
There was the grade school, then the gym, and then the middle school, or junior high we called it. Mm-hmm. That was just 7th and 8th grade. And then the high school. But you couldn't walk from one building to another. Each building was built at a different time. The high school was a yellow brick building. The junior high was kind of looked like an old Quonset hut, but a single story. And of course, the grade school was 3 stories, old, wooden floor.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, we had inkwells.
I remember that.
You remember inkwells?
I remember the desks we had in school had the remnants of the inkwells.
No, we used the inkwells.
You used them.
One of the monitors would come around, whoever it was, and fill up the wells. Now, that goes back a little bit. None of these people know what an ink pen looks like, a straight ink pen.
That's a different
That's
era.
what we used. That's what we learned.
And you, do you recall how many was in your graduating class?
I think around 50, somewhere around 54, 55.
54, 55.
I'm guessing. I can't remember. I had 54 supposedly graduated my dental school class, and that was about the same. That was pretty small in those days too.
You mentioned you went to IU.
I went to Indiana undergraduate, and then to IU dental school in Indiana. I left there. I graduated in 1957. That's before you were born too.
No. Actually, I was going good by 1957.
Oh, okay.
Graduated from IU, so you did your undergrad work, your graduate work, the whole thing at Bloomington.
Well, the undergraduate at Bloomington, and actually in those days, the first year of dental school was in Bloomington. First year of dental and medical school was in Bloomington, and then the last 3 years of both were at East Michigan. West Michigan, I mean.
Here in town?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you left the high school, and you mentioned you wanted to go with some of your friends from the north side, you wanted to go in, did you have any idea at that point in time what you wanted to study when you got to Bloomington?
When both of your parents are dentists, and they are beating you on the head from the time you were about 4 years old, I had no choice. The person across the street, the doctor who was a good friend of my folks, always wanted me to go to medical school. But my mother and dad beat this in me from the time I was, able to speak. So, and I'm not sorry.
Okay,
but yeah, I knew from the time I could walk what I was going to do.
And it's general dentistry,
General.
family dentistry,
Right,
whatever they call
right.
it now.
Yeah.
Did they have any name for it back in those days? Same
Just
thing?
a general dentist on the street corner.
Just a
You
dentist.
don't see those anymore.
Not very many. Everybody's a specialist in the medical fields anymore.
But it's funny. Things have evolved. Again, we're talking computers and things. When I was young in the practice of dentistry, you had to own the practice. There were no all these ones on. There was one advertising dentist in the whole city. One. And all he did was had billboards. And if I owned a practice or my folks owned a practice and I didn't take over, they could not sell it to you. They could sell it to you if you were a dentist,
Right.
but if you were not a dentist, you could not operate the practice out of the building. In other words, the dental practitioner had to.
Had the other building
yes.
doors. What was the rationale for that?
I'm not sure.
just more red tape.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that's the way it was in medicine, but if I died, you know, my wife couldn't own the practice and hire you as a dentist. That's gone out the window for years. I don't know.
Probably because there never was any real rationale for that.
Yeah, I don't know. That goes back even before I was born. I never thought about why they did it that way, but that's the way it was. And, go ahead.
You mentioned earlier, I think before, you did mention it in passing, I think, but I want to hit on it just a little bit. You practiced, when you first began your practice as a dentist, you were in practice with your mother and your father.
Yes,
correct.
I was. After I got out of dental school, I owed Uncle Sam because I started undergraduate school in September. The Korean War started in the summer, like July, and at Indiana University, you had to take ROTC. The first 2 years. In fact, that was universal in the United States. Land-grant schools, you were obligated to take ROTC. Well, I carried that on through, and if you were didn't go to the service and you were obligated. Dental school, you were all in dental school, medical school, you had a deferment, but you owed Uncle Sam 7 years. So when I got out, I went to the Army for 2 years.
Okay.
So I was in the Army for 2 years.
After
dental school.
After dental school.
And then I came out.
So that would have been around 58, 59?
57 to 59, I was in the Army.
59.
When I came back, I was with my folks. I also was a part-time instructor at the dental school, and I stayed there part-time, a couple of days a week for about 13 years. So I did teach students at the dental school.
When you were in the service, did you do spend any of your time overseas, or was that all stateside?
Well, I tell people that maybe I shouldn't say this. I was in a foreign country for a while, Kentucky. And I started out in Missouri. I started out in Texas at Fort Sam Houston, and then I was sent to a disciplinary barracks. Great service, great people, and they closed that after the election in '88. And then I got transferred to Fort Knox, Kentucky.
And at that point, then you practiced with Mom and Dad for 13 years.
Oh, after that?
After that?
Oh, well, after I got out of service, I was with Mom and Dad till my parents, my dad retired. Don't ask me dates, I can't remember. My mother didn't practice all that. In those days, there was no dental hygiene. Mm-hmm. So my mother actually, in those days, when we moved to 8th and Main Street, did mostly what we would call today dental hygiene. She did see some kids, and then she got a little older. She retired and became a mother, housewife. My dad stayed. Gosh, I can't remember when he retired. They then retired to Florida.
You mentioned the type of dentistry. What was dentistry when you began? And we all know what it is now. What kinds of work did you do? Actual dental work did you
general
perform?
Dentistry, fillings. We did everything. We didn't do the specialty like we did some oral surgery, but. If it became complicated, we'd send a specialist. Root canal therapy, did it if it was fairly simple. If it was complicated, we would send to an endodontist specialist. But things really haven't changed a whole heck of a lot, except fees. But, I still practice. I'm with the Marion County Health Department. We cater, where I am, we cater to the homeless and people living in shelters and people in substance abuse programs. And that's what I still do it, and I love it. And believe me, it's more rewarding than being in practice because surprisingly, there are a lot of people in this world that have nothing. And I see those people every day. In fact, my wife this morning, this is a sidelight, one of my patients helps people, and she told my wife last week that she's helping a family of 8 people who were in a fire. Their house burned down, and last Friday we took a tremendous amount of things. They're in a home on West 29th Street, and my wife today is taking more things for 8 people. And believe me, I was in that house, and there are people, it would make you cry. And there are a lot of those people that I see daily.
So you are in your 50th year of practicing dentistry?
I graduated from dental school in 1957. What year? So that'd be
I think
what,
that's pretty
53
cool.
years?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, we had our 50th anniversary, or our 50th anniversary, or reunion 3 years ago. And I hate to tell you, like looking at the board out here, most of my classmates are no longer around. However, I was the youngest student in my class, and a great number of my classmates were returning World War II veterans. And that would put, I still have one left, and he's not in good shape, I mean, mentally and physically. But as far as I know, all the rest of my classmates who were in the Army or in the service during World War II are no longer with us.
And you are still practicing?
3 days a
Pretty
week.
amazing.
3 days a week.
How much longer do you think you can keep it up?
When they carry me out on a gurney. As long as my boss.
What would you say is the secret to I mean, you obviously are very active. I can tell you feel good. You enjoy what you're doing, and you're passionate about what you're doing, helping people who have basically nothing. Is that the passion that keeps you working?
Well, yes. We have a list of, a lot of our patients are not well physically. Many of them are diabetic. I myself am diabetic, but I am able to eat and survive that way, and many of them have no teeth. My clinic works by grants only. So we rely on people giving us money for, and if you're a dentulous, have no teeth, or need dentures or partials, you either pay the top fee for a set of dentures, upper and lower, or $60. Those dentures cost us close to $500 to have fabricated in the laboratory. I'm using now a laboratory that I love. I used in practice. They're wonderful. If you're living in a shelter and don't have any money, you get dentures. You get treatment for free. If you're out in town below the poverty level and qualify for Wishart Advantage, your fee for a visit is $6. We do almost everything. We don't do crowns or bridges, although I did do a composite crown yesterday on a guy. I had a little extra time, and he's home. Well, he's not homeless, but he's jobless for years, going in for a job interview today, and I tried to make him look a little better. But it's very rewarding. I don't shake yet. The only thing that hurts me is my back. And I sit anyway, so that's not a big deal.
You mentioned your parents, you mentioned your wife briefly. Tell us a little bit about your family, where all the family is now, and what they're all doing.
Well, okay, my family, I'm married for the second time to a younger woman who's my hygienist, and we've been married 19 years. My previous marriage, I have 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls. They're all successful. My oldest son's an attorney in North Carolina, in Raleigh. My next oldest son is a psychiatrist out of Seattle, Washington. My next is my oldest daughter. She's a CPA down near Austin, Texas. And my youngest lives in Chicago, and she's a career actress. And we saw her, she was in a play in Dayton, Ohio, last Sunday. She didn't tell us she was the lead, and she was terrific. Oh, and I have 2 stepchildren who I've adopted by my second wife. Marianne is a graduate teacher, although she doesn't teach. She has 2 young children. And Mitchell is a unfortunate. He was in Iraq, and he has the symptoms, all the symptoms, and he's being treated at the veterans as we speak. Post-traumatic syndrome from being in Iraq.
Well, it sounds like you have them all over, and a lot of professional people, and so, and you mentioned, again, I think before we're on air, you do a little bit of traveling, some vacationing. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we have a couple of timeshares. We go to New Hampshire every year. This last time was our 9th year in North Conway, New Hampshire, during fall foliage season, and we just love it up there. The people, and around the Midwest, you think that New Englanders are standoffish, but that's not really the case. They're very nice. There's a town, my granddaughter goes to the University of New Hampshire, and we went over to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is the only, it's very slim. New Hampshire has a little slim area on the coast, on the Atlantic coast. Portsmouth, New Hampshire was founded in 1623. And they still have buildings, they still have areas. They're fantastic. That's the first time we've been to Portsmouth. But New Hampshire and Vermont, just beautiful. I mean, we don't have mountains here. But yeah, we drive up there every year. And the other vacations we take, we were in Yellowstone in the spring, and well, we go, we try to travel. I shouldn't say this but plane travel is not what it used to be. So we try to keep where we can drive in a couple of days. Yellowstone. We'd like to go back to. We have a timeshare in Lake Tahoe, New York, but it's hard to get to. You got to fly into Reno and drive down. But we've been to Yellowstone. My wife and I have. We used to backpack. We've climbed the tallest mountain in Mount Whitney. The tallest in the United States, of course, is Mount McKinley in Alaska, but in the contiguous 48, Mount Whitney. That was a trip. That's maybe why I'm getting back injections, carrying 50 pounds up that mountain. That's about 8-9 years ago.
You've obviously led a very full life, and you're still enjoying life at an age where a lot of people are struggling. What would you say has made you go all these years? What works for Richard Berger? What's the kind of thing that you can share with people that lets them know that one of the things we tell our kids here at Beech Grove High School is that anything is possible from any place, and you're an example of that. That's why you're here. What works for you?
Well, I don't know what keeps me going. I have good genes. My mother she was the smartest person I ever knew. She kept me going pretty well. What keeps? If anybody asks me my philosophy. Parents have to sit down to dinner. With my kids at home, with my first wife, 3 of them swam competitively. You got to keep them busy, and they were always tired. But we always, and my ex-wife was a school teacher. She taught at Northwest High School, just retired 2 or 3 years ago, and every night we sat down together. And we talked about things every night. And I can remember we talk about, especially to the girls, what do you do in this situation? And they would say, "Oh, Dad." And I would say, and one time I was at an IU football game with my best friend, and a situation happened near home where a man in a car tried to pick up one of my oldest daughter and her friend, and she knew exactly what to do, ran home, told her mother, they called the police. But those things, and we spent a lot of time together. When my kids were swimming, I was involved at the Y. I was with them all the time. And I think that's the secret. Mary Ann, that's my daughter now. We're within 5 minutes of them. We're very close to the two little kids. I call her Lefty. Her name's Zava Grace. And I call the little one, 15-month-old, I call him Henry Aldrich. You might remember Henry Aldrich, but I call Henry Aldrich. But we're very close. And you just, a lot of people I see in these broken homes, they just don't have, they don't have that. They don't sit down together. They do this or that. But my parents hammered me, and I always told my children, I don't have anything to give you. You're going to have to go to college and succeed. And you just over and over again. I know it's boring. Like my daughter Vicki said, "Oh, Dad, we have to talk about that again every night." But it might save their life, or at least,
Well, again, we have been with Dr. Richard Berger, who is from the class of 1951, and he is the Renaissance Alumnus of the Month for the month of November. And we have enjoyed talking with you, Dr. Berger, and as a small token of our appreciation for coming in, giving up your afternoon today to talk with us. Again, and thank you for watching the Hornet Spotlight for November. Again, make sure you come in, visit the high school. There are a lot of things going on as it won't be long before we're into the Thanksgiving season, the Christmas season, and all those types of things with all the performances of the fine arts and those types of things added to the athletics, which are part and parcel to any high school. So we look forward to seeing you, and we hope you enjoyed this edition of the Hornet Spotlight.